Hey guys, welcome back to the garage. Glad to see you again. I am Lee Kelso. As you can see, the engine is back in our 1989 Saab turbo convertible. We're close to taking a very important step of getting this thing out of the shop as a 5-speed instead of the 3-speed automatic that it left the factory with. Today we're going to be bleeding the clutch. We just installed the clutch for the first time on this car, and so it is completely bone dry. I understand that bleeding the clutch is kind of a pain if you don't have a pressure bleeding system, and that's what we're going to use today. So the first step in our process is to fill the brake fluid reservoir with brake fluid. Here is what we're going to be using in the project. It's DOT4 brake fluid. So here's a little brake fluid 101. DOT3 and DOT4 is a rating system that rates the brake fluid as to its boiling point. Now this stuff says 475 degrees is its boiling point. It's highly unlikely the way that most of us drive our vehicles will ever get the brakes up to that temperature. Race cars, heavy-duty trucks could be a different story. But DOT4 is the high temperature rated fluid. But there are two types of temperature ratings. There's the dry rating and the wet rating. Now the wet rating on this product is 375 degrees, so about a 100-degree difference between wet and dry. Why is that the case? Well, brake fluid is what's called hygroscopic. It attracts water out of the atmosphere. So that's the reason that it's recommended you flush brake fluid on a relatively regular basis, because it is absorbing water, helping it reduce the boiling point, and it also could increase the risk that you're going to rust and corrode the inside of your braking system. So your car, if it specifies DOT4, use only that product. Some of the older cars use DOT3. I've read that since 2006, almost all cars in the US use DOT4. Now we're going to be drawing fluid out of the reservoir, and we can't let that reservoir go empty, because if it does, then air is introduced into the system again. So the system, the pneumatic bleeding system, provides us with this supplemental reservoir bottle. So I'm going to be filling this supplemental reservoir with brake fluid, and then I will put it on top to expand the capacity of our brake fluid reservoir. This will allow us to draw fluid through the system with no chance, theoretically, of air getting back in. So you screw this supplemental reservoir bottle into this little adapter that we put into the mouth of our main fluid reservoir. Open the valve. That will let more fluid enter the reservoir. Okay, so this end of the system is good to go. Here is the business end of the system. As you can see, I've attached it to my air compressor. This little fitting will then attach to the bleed nipple on the clutch itself. As you pull the lever, air rushes past the top, creating a vacuum, which will suck the brake fluid from the reservoir and that additional supply bottle into this collection bottle. So we're going to be purging all the air out of the clutch system. Let's give it a go. The compressor has now generated the recommended amount of air pressure, so we'll open the bleed nipple and pull the trigger, and hopefully we'll see fluid begin to flow through this line into our catch bottle. With air out of the system, now let's check to see how the clutch pedal feels. It should have some resistance, and it does, so that's good. As I press on the clutch, fluid is extending the slave cylinder, pushing the release bearing into the fingers on the pressure plate that releases the clutch disc from the flywheel. It also gives me enough room to remove the 1/4-inch copper tubing I used back in episode 11 when I installed the clutch assembly. All right, another job done, and in my mind, this little gadget was $30 well spent. It made bleeding the clutch really pretty simple, and I will use it again. We changed the brake master cylinder as part of our project, so I'll need to go around and use this to bleed all four corners of the brakes. It's another step closer to putting our car back on the road as a 5-speed. Hope you're inspired to get out in the garage and get dirty. Till then, I'll see you next time.